Mr. B in that old trophy case. Number 4 still waiting for, well, bring on the chase. Out on the field at Mile High, Broncos win is our desire. Coupled with Breck, Brew and a friend, bleed orange and blue to the bitter end. Come and join us, DNVR. We are DNVR.
We are DNVR, and we are live from Studio B. The B stands for Broncos, and it is a big day for maybe not quarterback talk, but another guy who we actually talked about not showing out yesterday. We'll get around to who that is in just a second here, unless you've read the title of the show, in which case you probably know who we're talking about. But first, we want to give a shout out to our presenting sponsor, MSU Denver. MSUdenver.edu/online is the website. MSU Denver students work twice as many hours as students attending any other Colorado institution. So what that means is you can get a great education while keeping a full-time job. And then hopefully later down the road, you get a better full-time job because of that education. Mace.
How are you, my friend?
I am doing good.
Yeah.
Went to the Rockies game last night, watched them light up the sky with some home runs and grand slams.
Saw a bunch of jerseys of people who no longer play for the Cubs anymore.
Yes, not actually, and I'm not exaggerating. I did not in person one time see a Cubs fan wearing a jersey of a player who's on the team. Now, someone responded to my tweet of someone in the stadium wearing a Jason Hayward jersey, but I didn't see that person with my own eyes.
Yeah, it's because I guess no one wanted Jason Hayward, which is too bad. I mean, gosh, 11 years ago when he broke through, man, with the Braves, looked like he was going to be a superstar for a long time. And
He sure did.
yeah, it was Jason Hayward and Freddie Freeman came about the same time. It was Freddie that was the one that was the MVP and not Hayward. But, yeah, the Cubs are kind of a depressed husk of their former selves right now, really.
Yes.
But
Anyways,
their fans still showed out, for better or for worse.
They sure did.
Yes.
They bought those tickets a while ago.
Yeah, I mean, you might as well enjoy a nice night in Denver in the summertime, right? I mean, you already bought the tickets.
I'm a Rockies fan, and I was there,
Yes.
so, we're all in the same boat.
Yeah, nice night, though, yeah.
Yes, it was a nice night. Okay. First question I have for you about training camp today is, how is the energy? A lot of people complained about the energy yesterday. Thought it was a low energy practice for the first padded practice. Did it ramp up at all today?
It ramped up a little bit. I think part of it was part of it was pushing the ball downfield a little bit more and just kind of the structure of practice. I think if I'm going to offer a critique here of how the coaches plan the practices, it is this. Yesterday at camp, if you're listening, so Tuesday at camp specifically, that they focused on the run, they did some work on the screen game, and then they also practiced situations like throwing it out of bounds with 1 second left and that sort of thing. If you're going to have a day that's kind of meat and potatoes-ish, run, screen game, that kind of thing, what you need to do in the middle of practice is throw in like a 2-minute move the ball period. Just get everybody
Everyone riled up a little bit.
Riled up, lively. Give them a real meaty situation that gets everyone jacked up, kind of gets everyone thinking, okay, it's kind of the clutch here, got to make a play. And they did that today. We'll get into that as this show goes on, but that's where I think they kind of erred, is in kind of, instead of having a period like that midway through practice, they're having a period where they're literally trying to spike the ball after one completion, or they're having the quarterback throw out of bounds. So I think there are some things structurally in practice that maybe can keep everybody a little bit more engaged. I mean, I thought that the effort was there, but it was certainly a little bit languid. And today I think it popped a little bit more. It also helped that there were some plays that popped. You had Teddy kind of setting the tone early, going on a play action, roll to the right, found Noah Fant deep down the left sideline, past Justin Stranad, beaten in coverage, threw across the field, great play, 55-yard touchdown. So you had some dynamism going on today that wasn't there on Tuesday.
All right, let's not bury the lead too far, Mace.
Yes.
The real story out there today was Courtland Sutton. And the funny thing about this is yesterday, Zach and I went through the whole roster, and I asked him, trending up or trending down? And I believe he had Courtland Sutton as either neutral or trending down, just saying, like, he hasn't showed out. We haven't seen that big play threat. And it just feels like maybe he's still settling in. Well, Great news on that front today.
Great news on that front because in this case, Courtland Sutton made his quarterbacks look good. And a couple of plays jump out. First one is he makes a one-handed grab of a pass that Teddy throws behind him. It's not a good throw by Teddy Bridgewater. Courtland reaches back, gets the one-handed grab. Lots of oohs and ahs from the audience. And then later on has another nice grab, again, kind of reaching behind him, this one from Drew Lock. So this is the Courtland Sutton that we know and love. The Courtland Sutton who can bail out his quarterback because either he's able to make kind of that play in traffic, that leaping grab. It wasn't really that today. This was the fact that if you put it anywhere within arm's length, even if it's a throw that's off, even if it's the wrong shoulder, even if it's behind him instead of leading him, he's got a chance to make that play.
Yep.
Quarterback's best friend when he's doing things like that.
And it was such a glaring hole last season.
Yes.
In the offense. Tim Patrick is a very good NFL receiver, but he's just not the same type of vertical athlete, and I think even like his catch radius just might not be quite as big as Courtland Sutton's. And he's just not a guy who you just say like just throw it up and give him a chance. He's not that physical freak, even though he is a special athlete in his own right. He's not that physical freak that Courtland is, where you just say if you give him an opportunity to catch the ball, you've got a great chance. We used to call him 60-40 balls or even 70-30 balls when it came to him in that first camp when Case Keenum kept finding him deep.
Well, your theory is if you get on the opponent's side of the 50, throw it down there, give him a shot.
Yeah,
give him 3 shots. Yes. And when he makes plays like this, absolutely, you take these shots because he's making plays when the throws aren't where you want them to be. It's one thing. I mean, if the ball is in stride, he's got a chance to take it the distance. He's not going to take it the distance, but he reaches out and plucks a ball behind him with one hand. That's 20 yards that you didn't have otherwise.
Yeah, Ali,
I think that's a game-changing moment. The Broncos put the video up on Twitter with the caption, "Court doing court things."
Mm-hmm.
And that, I think, is the perfect way to describe what he was doing. He was Courtland Sutton today.
And that is so relieving to hear because
so exciting.
While it was understandable what Zach was saying yesterday and true, that he just hadn't popped yet.
Yes.
It's always a little bit scary because you just think to yourself, okay, well, he's owed some time to get his legs under him, but how long? Is it a year? Is it 6 months? Is it 5 practices? It looks, hopefully, like it was 5 practices or 6 practices before he was able to kind of get his legs back underneath him.
His reps are going up as well. The other thing is when they were easing him back in, he was doing a lot of stuff with the second team, and now we're starting to see him do more with the first team. I mean, if I have a little bit of a concern, sometimes there still looks to be a little bit of a hitch, but that's something that you expect is going to come with time. They would not have him out there if his knee wasn't well enough to where he can play.
Right.
And the thing that we also know with all these ACLs is this: there's that year where you can play, but maybe you're not back to being all the way there, but you're most of the way there. And then it's the year after when you're kind of 100%. And I think maybe we kind of see that with Courtland, where he's like 90 to 95% of what he was in this first year back. But based on today and the ability to make those plays when the passes aren't exactly on target, this shows he's going to be a plus player. He's going to help you. And oh, by the way, he's probably not going to see cornerback 1 a lot of the time the way Jerry Jeudy is playing. So his matchups are going to be better.
I agree with you. But just thinking about that and like saying it out loud, Courtland Sutton going against CB2 is a big problem for a lot of teams.
Yes.
A big, big problem. And then, of course, you throw in Noah Fant, who's probably drawing a mismatch as well.
I mean, he was burning Justin Strnad today.
Yeah. Tough for Justin.
It is tough for Justin. There's a lot on his plate. He's adjusting. It was a tough day all around for Justin because there was one play where Javonte Williams, he crashes up the middle. Justin fills the hole, and Williams just goes straight into his chops.
Threw him.
Didn't throw him, just kind of
No, I
knocked
just mean
him
like,
back.
did he run through him?
Yeah, kind of like he knocked him back a little bit. He went right at the chest.
Well, it's a good job by the running back. A little more of a maybe a collision that you hope to see at training camp.
It is, but you're also testing Justin Strnad. I think you're trying to find out what his strengths are, what his limitations are. You're trying to, and it's an opportunity with Josie Jewell on the shelf. It's an opportunity to find out whether Strnad is an every down linebacker. But the thing is, he gets beat by Noah Fant. Noah Fant's going to beat a lot of people.
What's interesting is if I'm going up against the Broncos, depending on how, let's just assume Courtland is at full health.
Yeah.
I actually think I'm putting my CB1 on Courtland.
Okay.
Because I don't think anyone's CB1 can stay with Jerry Jeudy. So you're basically I'm telling my CB2 play off of him and keep him in front of you. Whereas, who was it? I forget who it was, but there was a very strong corner who was talking this year who said that Jerry might have been the toughest matchup he faced last year.
Yeah.
Who was that?
Well,
been in Carolina.
Yeah, I know.
Worley or something.
I know what you're talking about. Now, what's interesting is you talk about like the quality of corners that you're going to face. We'll just take Pro Football Focus's rankings. Who are the best outside corners, right? Okay, Jair Alexander, you're not going to see him. Jalen Ramsey, you're not going to see him. Marlon Humphrey, you'll see him in week 4. Xavier Howard, who knows where he ends up.
Mm-hmm.
James Bradbury, the Giants, you'll see him right out of the blocks. Stephon Gilmore, Patriots. Tre'Davious White of the Bills, you're not going to see either of those guys. Denzel Ward of the Browns, and then William Jackson and Marcus Peters. So you're going to see about half of the top 10 cornerbacks in this league. Now, the question is, do you look at, for example, Denzel Ward as somebody who could contain Jerry Jeudy? If you don't see him that way, then you put Denzel on Courtland.
I probably look at Jalen Ramsey end list for me.
Okay.
As guys that I would put on Jerry Jeudy and say, like, he can clamp him down.
Okay, that's fair.
And again, Jerry has to put all the other stuff together. It looks like he has so far in this camp. How did he look today?
Looked fine. I mean, he looked like himself. But, I mean, today was Courtland being the alpha. But you get into the season, and we're going to have games where Courtland Sutton leads in receiving yardage, or Jerry Jeudy leads, or Noah Fant leads. It's not going to be where one of these guys is always having 100, 110, 120 yards. So you think about, I mean, although, Jerry Judy's very confident that he can get 2,000 yards, and I like the confidence that he has there. At the same time, between this offense probably emphasizing the run more than most offenses, the relative limitations of the quarterbacks, and the fact that you have 3 aces, as it were, in terms of catching the ball, there are only going to be but so many opportunities to go around. Like if you could get 2 of those guys north of 1,000 yards, and I mean kind of on the low end north of 1,000, like 1,100 or so, and then get another 800 or 900 out of Noah Fant, I think you're pretty ecstatic with that.
Well, yeah, because it tells you your quarterback's throwing for 4,000
yards.
Exactly.
Hopefully that means your quarterback is averaging 250 yards or so a game.
Yeah.
Whoever he is.
And that would be fantastic.
Yes.
But it is, I mean, Jerry, like I said, I'm not going to be the one to tell him he can't do it because I don't think anyone can cover him. But it's going to be very hard with the options out there to rack up 2,000 yards, as it would be wherever you are, unless your quarterback's, Peyton Manning or Aaron Rodgers. Not even Tom Brady, I don't think, is an option there. I guess you had the Tom Brady, Randy Moss season. I don't even know how many yards he had.
Yeah, was that like 1,800?
Yeah, he was close.
Jerry Rice pushed around 2,000 once, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And he had some good supporting talent, but there was a big gap between Jerry Rice and John Taylor and Brent Jones, their tight end.
Right.
Actually, some years their second best pass catcher was a running back, Roger Craig.
Yeah.
Who won? I believe he did have a 1,000 rushing and receiving season.
That's sweet.
That he's doing that in the 80s. I mean, my God.
Right. That's special. Okay. We're going to go backwards today. So why don't you tell me non-quarterback notes from practice that we should hit on, and then the second segment we'll get all the quarterback.
I'll tell you what, we talked a lot about the running game yesterday in terms of writing, and I'm sure you guys talked about it on the show as well. Well, it was kind of like the defense striking back a little bit, especially up front. And I mean, the thing that jumped out was guys that were making plays against the run. Like you saw Deshaun Williams and Draymond Jones immediately being disruptive against the run. This was a really good day for the defensive line, not only against the run, but in terms of generating some interior pressure. Draymond Jones was in the backfield. Shelby Harris had a play that would have ended up as a sack. Marquise Spencer, I believe Zach's talked about Spencer. I know one of the days he was a name to know or a guy on the rise, and he had a good day today. He had a couple of plays that would have been run stuffs, and another that probably would have been a sack in game conditions. McTelvin Agim was in the backfield as well. I mean, you're seeing the contributions all around. You're actually seeing on a consistent basis more pressure coming from the interior D linemen than from the edges right now.
Interesting. Do you think any of that has to do with the fact, not taking away from the interior, but with the fact that Von Miller, one, wants to protect himself a little bit this year, and two, he knows in his heart, I can ruin practice any day. I don't feel like doing it.
A little bit. He's held back from time to time. Now, today Von Miller was off. He got a veteran rest day, so we saw a little bit more of Bradley Chubb. We also saw like Derek Tuska and Malik Reed. Now Tuska, there was an interesting moment in practice because we're seeing some one-on-ones, O-line, D-line, and Tuska tried to bull rush Garrett Bolles in one-on-one. This is not a good idea.
It's not going to go
It's
well for
not
him.
going to end well. And Bolles just kind of quickly just brushed him off. And one thing that's interesting.
I kind of like the ambition.
I do, but at the same time, something that I'm noticing, Garrett Bolles is becoming a really vocal player.
Ooh.
And really vocal in kind of helping his teammates. We know, for example, how he helped Calvin Anderson. Anderson lived at the Bolles house last year. Two of them watched film all the time. Calvin talked about how Bolles kind of helps him to say, all right, you need to react more than you think, because Anderson, being that incredibly bright guy that he is, he sometimes has a little bit of paralysis by analysis because you're thinking about too many possibilities when you really need to kind of distill it down a little bit. And Garrett has helped him with that. But you see Bolles helping his fellow linemen. You also see him telling the guys on the edges, oh, hey, you know what? You do that, it's not going to work. It's not going to work for you. Try something else.
Love that.
And you think, all right, this team needs kind of some vocal leaders, and not just guys who are going to point the way, but guys who are going to tell their teammates when they're doing poorly, and here's what you can do differently. And Bolles
Vaughn
is starting
did that with Bolles.
Right. Vaughn did that with Bolles as a rookie, and in his second year as well. And now Bolles is starting to do that with guys on the O-line and guys in the front seven as well. And so he's kind of, I love seeing that side of Garrett Bolles. And I love the fact that you're starting to maybe get a player or two who's emerging as that tough love leader. I mean, Vaughn is kind of a happy-go-lucky leader.
Yep.
If the quarterback position, if it's Drew or Teddy, Drew's good, just
They're one of the guys.
They're one of the guys. Teddy's kind of he has friends in every clique in the locker room. Everybody likes him. Drew's one of the guys. You don't have many guys who can kind of be the correcting leader.
Mm-hmm.
Bolles might be becoming one of those players. I think Kareem Jackson certainly is on the other side as well. But that's something that you really need. I loved seeing that side of Garrett Bolles today in one-on-one. I also love watching the one-on-ones because there were some glimpses. Now, Quinn Miners, he had some false start issues in team. Shows you how far he has to go. Mm-hmm. In one-on-one, that dude is nearly impossible to dislodge. Makes the snap. He gets into his set so quickly. And of course, he's got a really strong lower body, as we know. Mm-hmm. He is nearly impossible to move. One-on-ones, conversely, were a little rough for Lloyd Cushenberry today.
One-on-ones are where both Quinn Miners and Lloyd Cushenberry made their meet at the Senior Bowl.
That's right. A little rougher for Lloyd Cushenberry today. You had guys that were kind of able to flash across him to get to one shoulder and then get to the spot where Chris Cooper was standing, basically mimicking the quarterback position. So... But I'm encouraged by Garrett. I'm encouraged by Garrett Bolles right now.
And, it's funny. We were talking about this last night. I don't know did you see the excerpt that came out of Nikita Zadorov talking about Nathan McKinnon?
No.
Well, it's long and awesome. Basically, you'll when I'm talking, you'll just hear Peyton Manning.
Right.
But he's basically said, Mac will not tolerate anything but a perfect pass in practice that's coming to him. So he's like, if you hit him in the skate, if you just miss his blade by a couple centimeters, he will stop everything, smack the puck back at you, and just say, do it again.
I love that.
And, the story went on and on and on about how just insane he is. But sometimes you have to be a little insane. And having that type of leader on a team that is willing to just say, no, this isn't good enough, so the coaches don't have to be the ones to point out when it's not good enough, can be a really positive thing. The Broncos don't have that and haven't had it for a while. If Garrett Bolles can be that guy, and by the way, he's earned the right to tell people, and he can
second team all pro. You have to earn it. You can't Drew can't do that.
Yeah.
Even if Drew wanted to.
Neither can Teddy because he doesn't have the seniority.
No, he doesn't have the seniority. At least Teddy has helped the team to the playoffs, so he'd have a little more of a case to do it. But the quarterbacks can't do it. And you're not going to see it from certain positions. It would be hard for a running back to do it. Obviously, it's easiest if it comes from the quarterback or, say, inside, your inside linebacker who's calling the plays on the defensive side. But it can come from elsewhere. But that guy left the building when DeMarcus Ware left the team.
Yeah.
Because you had Peyton and D. Ware, and then you still had D. Ware. And once he was gone, it was gone. And it hasn't come back yet.
And what a cool thing about Bolles is, from, let's say you are, Calvin Anderson is too close to him, so I don't want to use that example. Let's say you're Marquise Spencer.
Mm-hmm.
And Garrett Bolles is just saying, hey, man, that's not going to work.
Right.
Let me show you, how you can help. Well, if you're Marquise Spencer, you should have a lot of respect for Garrett Bolles in the sense that he's been at the bottom, and he worked his way all the way up to second team All-Pro. So not only does he have, the accolades to say, hey, look, I know what it's like in this league, but he also can level with you and saying, look, I was nothing at one point.
Leadership means more when you had your ass kicked at some point. But when you're just down there with the rest of them, with Peyton, how often did he talk about the fact that he threw 28 interceptions as a rookie?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, he was the number 1 overall pick, a generational prospect, but he could lead from a position of saying, yeah, I suck too, at one point.
And what's crazy is you look later in the career, maybe no one has ever seen the field as well as he saw the field.
Yeah.
And clearly he wasn't seeing the field as a rookie. Or maybe he just believed in his arm a little too much, one or the other. But he learned and figured out a way to see the field better than or as good as anyone ever.
Yeah.
And with Garrett, it's kind of like how Tiger Woods says, I don't know how to teach people how to play golf. Or he's like, I couldn't be a coach because just people can't do things.
Yeah.
Certain guys are so good that they're like that. Garrett Bolles is coming from a totally different position. He is not just so gifted and talented that he doesn't know how he got here. Yeah. He knows exactly how he got here. He put his one foot in front of the other every step of the way to get to where he is.
And he did it by learning technique. He had the raw athleticism, but he became better at technique because he not only listened to his coaches, but he applied what he learned. Everyone can listen to their coaches, but then he took that next step of applying it. And so he can sit there and say, this is where I was in 2018. Look at where I am now. And the steps I took to get here, these are steps that you can take too. Maybe not necessarily to be an all-pro, but to maximize what you are and contribute in this league.
100%. All right, if you want to maximize your account at DraftKings Sportsbook, you can take $1 this week and bet it on any fighter, or I should say either fighter, to land a punch in the main event at UFC 265 this weekend, and you'll get $100. You bet one, you win 100 on UFC 265 if either fighter in the main event lands a punch. It's a great deal over at DraftKings Sportsbook. And Mace, DraftKings Sportsbook just today has launched same game parlays, which is super fun.
Wow.
So right now it's only on baseball and I believe MLS. Those are the two I've seen. They're going to be expanding it, and I've confirmed with my sources at DraftKings that this is going to be around for football season. Why is that fun? Because you can basically put together a parlay of all fun Broncos things. So you could have a parlay that says Jerry Jeudy is going to have over 4 catches. Melvin Gordon's going to have over 65 rushing yards. The Broncos are going to win. They're going to hold the Giants to under 17.5 points. And you start to build all that, and you start to get a ton of great value. Mm-hmm. You hit it all, you go home a big winner. So a ton of fun stuff going on at DraftKings, and they always crank up the boosts and all that good stuff for the beginning of football season. So get in now, download the DraftKings Sportsbook app, and when you use the code DNVR, you can get a sign-up bonus up to $1,000. Of course, you must be 21 or older, Colorado only. Bonus comprised of a first deposit bonus and a first bet match, each up to $500. The deposit bonus requires a 25x playthrough and restrictions to apply. See DraftKings.com/sportsbook for details. And if you have a gambling problem, call 1-800-522-4700.
If I try to get through all that fast, I'd stumble like 10 times.
I've read it about 10,000 times, so
I still get tongue-tied
muscle memory at this point.
If you don't want to be tongue-tied, have a Breck brew. Have 2, have 3. Drink responsibly, of course. Make sure you've got that designated driver. We appreciate it, by the way, knowing that there were a bunch of designated drivers in the crowd here at the DNVR bar on Saturday when we had our grand reopening.
Absolutely.
So people were really responsible about that, and we love to see that.
Yes, sir.
Yes. So Breckenridge Brewery, it's the official beer of DNVR. They've got their Good Company hard seltzers here in the DNVR bar. But what we love even more than those beers and seltzers is the fact that Breckenridge Brewery is teaming up with the National Parks Conservation Association this year. Last year, the tragic fires in Colorado were devastating for so many. So this is one of the many reasons that Breck will donate 1% of all profits this summer to the National Parks Conservation Association. So you get a Breck Brewery, get a Good Company hard seltzer, you're helping our great outdoors. We'll have some events at the DNVR bar to promote this, including the chance to win a $30,000 escape pod trailer. Head on over to their website and enter to win. Just go to breckbrew.com/ingoodco. That's breckbrew.com/ingoodco for more details on winning that $30,000 escape pod trailer. We're going to be giving away some Breck Brew swag over the course of the summer, so check it out. But don't forget to enter to try and win, I should say, that escape pod trailer. Go to breckbrew.com/ingoodco.
All right. Also, want to just tell you about the great things we have going on down here at DNVR. This weekend, we mentioned UFC 265 as it relates to DraftKings. Well, we will have the fight on here at DNVR, and we don't charge a cover. All we ask is that you come down here and have a damn good time. So I'll be here. Allie will be here. Mace, you going to swing by for UFC? Maybe? Hit me with a maybe.
Maybe, although it's this weekend, right?
Yes, Saturday.
I'll be at the Hall of Fame.
Oh, okay. He's not going to be here.
I will be watching our friend Steve Atwater unveil his bust and give his speech. Oh, yeah. Oh, my gosh. What a thrill.
That's going to be awesome.
Get to see a friend, a very dear friend, Steve Atwater, and then 2 of my favorite guys I ever covered the next night, John Lynch and Peyton Manning going. It's phenomenal. It's like this is your life as a football fan and as a football journalist. This is because I saw John Lynch growing, of course, in Tampa back in the day as well. So this is really cool.
Well, that'll be awesome.
Yeah.
If you're not going to Canton, come by the DNVR bar. You get yourself a member-sized beer. Get yourself all sorts of great stuff down here. Check out our merch store. New hats came in yesterday, so you can check those out.
These are fire.
They're sweet.
These hats.
So, so much going on, but especially want you guys to come check out the bar this weekend for UFC 265. All right, Mace. Let's move on to the quarterbacks. This will be probably the only time. It takes us 30 minutes before we talk quarterbacks, but not as juicy the last 2 days as it relates to these guys.
Not as juicy, although some interesting stuff. And, I mentioned the pass that Teddy had to Noah Fant. Beautifully executed play action, but then throwing across the field. And that's something that's key for Teddy because he doesn't have the arm strength. So when he rolls out, can he throw sideline to sideline? If he rolls right, can he throw left? If he rolls left, can he throw right? Is there enough there? Well, there was more than enough there. He had and he was able to take advantage of Fant getting past Justin Strnad touchdown. I mean, that's key. If Teddy can make those kinds of throws, it will make him harder to defend for the defense as well.
Totally.
So that's a key thing for him. I mean, Drew had a solid day. I think you would have been able to say it was a good day for Drew if he did not have that pick at the end. And that was kind of, he had the offense going. It was first team offense versus combo first, second team defense there. Like they had OJ Moody out there for the series, for example, but they had Justin Simmons and Kareem Jackson back there at safety. Some nice passes. There was a pass to Courtland Sutton for 24 yards. Gets the ball rolling. They started at their own 25. They're in the red zone. They've got third down, and the thing that kind of frustrates you on this, and will probably frustrate Drew when he watches the film, is that he could have scrambled for the yards. He had third down. It was not something where you had to go for it all right then and there, although it was a scenario where the offense was down 7.
It did.
So they needed a touchdown, but they had, I believe they had 33 seconds on the clock.
And how many yards to go?
14.
Okay.
They had third down. It wasn't the end of the world here. I mean, he could have taken the scramble, gotten to the line to gain, and clocked it and put the offense in good shape. And so he tried to force it in there, and Justin Simmons picked it off. And Simmons is going to make you pay for that.
Mm-hmm.
So there are some safeties who aren't going to react, who aren't going to have the same kind of quick reaction, the ability to read the quarterback's intent as Simmons does. But you do go against some good safeties on the draft. I mean, or in the schedule. Tyrann Mathieu, Honey Badger, he's probably going to make that play too.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, and it sucks from a Drew Lock perspective because it sounds so familiar, right?
Mm-hmm.
It was all good until it wasn't. We've seen that happen. You go back to the opening drive against Kansas City where it's like they're moving the ball. They got a chance to really start this game off well. And then one just mental lapse, maybe just maybe not even considered mental lapse, just a
bad decision.
An over-aggression that isn't exactly necessary.
Charger game too. I mean, that first drive in the Chargers game, it's third down, and he rolls out. That's where you wish it would have been kind of Teddy throwing it away and this getting the field goal.
Yep.
Ditto for the Chiefs game. I mean, that's getting points on the board is crucial there. And now again, they were down 7, so situationally. You're going to try it. If he tried that on fourth down, I think I would have felt better about it. But trying it on third down, and again, when you had it was opening him up to scramble, like Teddy had a play today where things early in practice opened up, and everybody was covered, but there was a lane right down the middle, and he just took off, and he would have in game conditions it would have been 15 yards. And yeah. Teddy's not Lamar Jackson, but he's a good enough runner to do that.
Right. The thing that you wonder, though, in this, goes back to us not knowing exactly what the coaches are telling these guys is, have maybe the coaches say, hey, look, we know you can scramble.
Yes.
So when you get outside of the pocket, look to make a play with your arm first.
Well, he was in the pocket,
Okay, he was in the pocket.
Yeah, he hadn't really moved outside. He wasn't toward the sideline outside the numbers kind of thing.
But it was just open up the middle for running if you wanted.
It looked like it was there, and again, it was third down. Fourth down, I think you're gonna have a different perspective on it, but down in distance and situation matters. And so then Teddy goes up 2s versus 2s. Actually kind of starts it the same way Drew did, about a 19-yard completion to get him going, get him to midfield. They're moving the ball well, and then they get to the 20-yard line, and he's looking for Brandon Mack, and Teddy described it after practice as miscommunication. Kind of a code for when quarterbacks say that. If it's on them, the quarterback, and Teddy and Drew are both the kind of guys who will say, it's on me. Miscommunication, didn't say it was on me, just said it was miscommunication. Brandon Mack's going in one direction, the ball goes the other. So,
and that was intercepted.
That was intercepted by a guy whose name keeps coming up all the time, Rogesterman Ferris.
Wow.
He's always around the ball, probably because they're always throwing in his direction.
Rogesterman Ferris, no days off.
Yes. Of course, he came a little bit late. He was an in-camp signee. Yes. So Rogesterman Ferris comes up with the pick to end it. By the way, on that Lock interception, the guy who was the most visibly frustrated was Garrett Bolles. He was really upset. You could hear him. I wouldn't say, maybe not cussing, but he was angry.
Yelling up a storm?
He was yelling up a storm. So not quite the same thing with Teddy, but it's funny. Like, you kind of look at these moments and you're like, you want one of these guys someone break forward, because both Zach and I kind of had the same point total today. Teddy 6, Drew 4. Big thing was Teddy having that shot to Noah Fant, and yet Teddy, even though it's a miscommunication, if he doesn't have that pick, if he leads a touchdown drive there, it's Teddy kind of getting a knockdown of Drew today. Didn't happen. Mm-hmm. Drew could have at least had it all square, maybe even a slight advantage if he gets that touchdown there in the red zone. Didn't happen. Like, these, they just. I mean, you don't want.
It's like a game where you keep saying to yourself, "Who wants to win this thing?"
It's kind of a reminder that you are dealing with quarterbacks that around the league are widely regarded as two guys that if you had them starting, they'd be in the bottom third. That's what they are at this point.
Yep.
Like it or not, it's a question of whether the rest of the roster is enough to where you can still have some success, because we have seen that teams can overcome that level of quarterbacking if the rest of the team is doing well enough. We saw Buffalo in 2017 as a wild card team. Jacksonville that same year won a division. I mean, even it took a great defense, but even Peyton Manning was not a high-level quarterback across the board in 2015. Kind of the extreme example because you had an all-time defense. But Mitchell Trubisky in 2018 for the Bears wasn't a great quarterback. They won 12 games because they could run the ball. They had some explosive guys when they did complete some passes, and they had a great defense. And so when I say this, it doesn't mean that success is out of the question for the Broncos. It's just going to happen in a way that might make you want to tear your hair follicles out of your scalp.
Lovely. I just think
lovely image there, huh?
This is what I've been saying all off season, though, which is the dream that exists for Broncos fans. If you're talking about a best case scenario, is about Drew Lock winning this job and at some point, for whatever reason, clicking. And he just goes over a hump and becomes a better quarterback. And we've seen it happen before. It's not exactly a common occurrence, but it does exist. That's the dream. And
there's the possibility of that.
Yes.
I mean, Teddy is at this point, Teddy is not reaching that level. Mm-mm. So basically it's Teddy. You either take Teddy as he is and probably as he will be, or Drew, well, he might get there, but right now he's not there.
Right.
And so do you go for the might be over the almost certainly won't be?
Yeah, and I would, but I'm not coaching for my job, and that's the great debate, right? Is Vic Fangio going to come out and say, let me go with the safer option, at least to start the season, because we play, 3 very beatable teams in our first 4 games.
Right.
So I want to lower the variance as much as I possibly can. That would make sense to me.
Can't blame him for that.
Or do you say, hey, let's let Drew go out there and get his confidence up early in the season against some lesser teams and hope that maybe that's what launches him to that next level. For every point, there's a counterpoint. It's what does make this quarterback competition interesting.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, there is the underlying bummer of what you're talking about. Mm-hmm. There's a reason these two guys are competing for a starting job, and it's because neither of them, at least to this point, have proven themselves to be a solid starter in the NFL, or else they wouldn't be competing.
Right. And they're two incomplete quarterbacks. They just that's what they are at this point. Now, can Drew find what he's missing? Possibly, like what Teddy is missing, the arm talent, unless all of a sudden a new arm sprouts from his shoulder. It's not, he's not going to be able, he's not going to have the velocity. He's not going to put the zip on it that Drew can. Now, it's encouraging when you see him throw across the field deep to Noah Fant.
Right, he's not working with nothing.
Right, but he's not. But you're not going to say, "Wow, he really winged it in there." That's just that's not him. So, I mean, I guess I kind of sound resigned about it because it's like, okay, this is who they are. Now, the other interesting that comes in, you mentioned, okay, the coaches are trying to keep their jobs. And the other interesting thing is, okay, who knows this offense? Who knows things better? And Graham Glasgow had that comment where he talked about Teddy being more thorough in the huddle, and he kind of was trying to walk it back. You can hear beep, 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 but it's out there now, and he's probably not the only one who feels that way.
Yeah.
About Teddy versus Drew in the huddle. And I think the other thing that comes up is that Teddy is and this is owing to him being a veteran, owing to him having run this offense before and learned it. He's more comfortable with things pre-snap. Drew is improving. He's put a lot of work into that, but Teddy is still above him. There was a play yesterday where Drew didn't look like he diagnosed the corner blitz, and Surtain was there unblocked. It kind of reminds you when Brock Osweiler was running the Kubiak offense in 2015. One of the reasons he got benched in that Charger game was there was a corner blitz, and everyone's like, oh, he was unblocked. But that was on Osweiler because he didn't ID it pre-snap.
Yeah.
So, it sound like John Fox. It is what it is.
And we talked about this before the show went live. It feels like, so we talked pre-pads was its own little section.
Right.
Now pads are going to be its own little section, but it feels like the next milestone, the next opportunity to really get separation in this race is going to come in Minnesota.
Yeah, against somebody else, somebody who doesn't know you, who doesn't see you. Of course, the interesting thing is they know Teddy to some degree.
Yes,
a few of them do. Now, Mike Zimmer does, but there's been a lot of turnover. I mean, in the coaching staff there over the years, and a lot of turnover on the defensive side of the ball. So I'm gonna blame, but I'm guessing there's probably about 10, maybe 12 guys left from the Vikings when Teddy played on the team.
Yeah.
So I don't think there's going to be a lot of institutional knowledge that's going to be used against Teddy when he's out there.
I also think it'll be interesting to keep an eye on this, Mace. Drew Lock got the first snap of camp because of his quote-unquote seniority with the Broncos. Does that mean he gets the first snap of the preseason game because of his quote-unquote seniority of the Broncos? If Teddy gets it, it might be they'll be able to explain it away if they want, but to me it might be an indication, okay, they think he has a slight lead.
Yeah, that's a good point. And I don't know how they're going to do that. I mean, if they're saying it's even Steven, then it might just be, okay, well, we're going to default to Drew. And maybe it's going to be as simple as saying one of them gets the first snaps in practice and another gets the first snap in the game.
Yeah.
Or one gets the first snap on Wednesday, one gets the first snap on Thursday, one gets the first snap when it's game time on Saturday afternoon. I mean, who knows? It's probably it might be something like that where they try to kind of split the baby as much as possible.
Well, the good news is Mace will be there to tell us exactly who got the first snaps in practice, and of course we'll all be able to watch the game when it goes down. But Mace, this is your last show of the week, at least on the live side of things. We'll obviously finish in the podcast here in a second before you head out to Canton.
Yeah, I mean, I'm sure I'll be popping in. I mean, there's ways to get me on live from Minnesota, I'm sure. So this is not going to be the last that you hear from me, but it's going to be RK and Zach. So it's going to be different. I'm not used to being away from camp for this long.
Yeah,
because of the Hall of Fame, it's throwing my rhythm off a little bit to have right there in the middle of camp miss 3 practices like that.
Yes, that is very
strange. So,
all right,
I'm counting on you. You guys take good notes.
We will.
You are my eyes.
Yes, we're gonna get to the podcast side of things. If you watched this and you enjoyed it, hit us with a thumbs up on your way out. You can also subscribe so you don't miss the next time we go live. And again, Broncos are off tomorrow, so we won't be here tomorrow, but we'll be back on Friday. Zach and I breaking down whatever went down at practice. Again, we're going to switch over to the podcast side of things. You can find that anywhere you listen to podcasts, but thanks for tuning in to the live.